for the fundamental challenge is coming to terms. The fundamental challenge for mediators is coming to terms with the fact that not every dispute can be mediated. And in family, I'm only talking about family. Okay, I can't. We have to come to terms with the facts of family violence. We have to come to terms with the fact of children need a voice in the mediation process, or their interests need to be considered. We have to come to terms with the cultural differences that exist between families and how we're going to address that. We published an article in the Family Court Review a while ago which really drove this home to me. Somebody did a survey of mediation in Hispanic communities in Denver, Colorado, and what their expectations were of mediators. Now, what that community, which is heavily Catholic, largely immigrant, okay, often from Latin America and Mexico, believes is mediators need to be very proactive forces to recommend services for people. Okay, that's what they look for. Okay, they're major figures in the community. Now, those of us who believe in a highly they're making recommendations. They're saying things to them, like get your kid therapy, or those of us in the facilitative end are going to be very uncomfortable with that. Okay, very, very uncomfortable with that. Now, to me, okay, a mediation, even what I guess some of us would say is highly evaluative, very values-driven, very, to those folks is better than they're going to court. They're getting some help rather than none. That's what we, I think, need to come to terms with. Okay, that it's really, how much evaluation, how much facilitation, what are we going to do if we learn that what are we going to do to screen for violence? Okay, I mean, that's really a sort of another fundamental issue going on in the family. I spent 4 years working on the model standards, and one of the fundamental issues was dealing with the domestic violence community, who basically have view, and they're probably right, I have great sympathy for this view. There's a lot of undiscovered domestic violence. The victims don't come forward together, okay? Now you're putting them in the same room with a batterer, okay? And what are we mediators going to do to protect that victim? Okay, they have a point. They have a point.
Well, I mean, it's a curious piece because it seems like we now come full circle to the therapeutic issues of that is a valid point. The other point is how much do we second guess or substitute our professional judgment for theirs? In other words, somebody says, look, I want to mediate.
Right. That's a terribly difficult point.
Do you come in and say, I'm sorry, we're not allowing you to, we've decided you're not capable?
That is the fundamental dilemma. Now, my view is, if a court system is referring people to mediation, that shouldn't be the mediator's decision. That's a screening decision that should be made before they're referred. Okay? That should not be on the mediator. Unfortunately, under-resourced courts, okay, which aren't organized to do the kinds of screening that we're just beginning to talk about in family courts. That's this idea of therapeutic justice and differential case management. The mediator gets those people. Okay, now what do? It's impossible. There are two rights, okay, in a lot of ways. She wants to mediate, okay, so therefore her self-determination suggests she should. We don't tell people what to do, right? On the other hand, she's been beaten and she could be a prisoner of the equivalent of a prisoner of war. I don't know. What do you do? Yeah. I mean, I don't have a good answer for that, and other than to say, my God, this is a tough problem. Here's a number of things that we could do to make potentially the situation better. But it would be better if the decision were made up front before they've got to the mediator. That requires some kind of screening, some kind of education program, some kind of opt-out provision. I mean, those are all things that that do exist in certain court systems around the country. They need to be widely shared and spread. But that's a really core problem because I don't know how to resolve the problem. I don't have a good resolution for it.